Hi, everybody. It's Steve and Kenny here, dad and son. And we got a lot of comments. Thank you very much for sharing a lot of your thoughts on the arrival of the tub. That's the P1 monocage, and how excited we were because that only took 2 years. To give everybody a little bit of background, if you're new, which we got a lot of new viewers, we're super excited about. We are building from the ground up a P1. This is not a wrecked or salvaged P1 in any way. Not that that's bad at all, but this is a P1 project where we're building it from the ground up. I own validation prototype number 4 of the P1 series, and that came with a bunch of these big giant gray boxes that had a bunch of extra parts because this vehicle, validation prototype 4, was a show pony car featured on Top Gear, Jay Leno's Garage, super awesome. McLaren took it back, rebuilt it from the ground up, put all the old parts in these boxes, rebuilt the car, and then eventually I got my hands on it. But the parts included an extra drivetrain. We're talking electric motor, twin turbo V8 engine, plus the transmission that just happened to be in a box, which was super exciting. So Kenny, when we got all the parts, what did we decide to do?
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You find this in a giant crate.
You're going to build a P1. Like, it's kind of a rule. But here we are. We now have thanks to McLaren, by the way, you guys are awesome, a fully brand new McLaren P1 tub made in the past 12 months, or probably manufactured in 2024. So they did us a solid. Now, we worked with Cannonball Garage to have them fully restore this drivetrain because it probably had tens of thousands of miles on it from testing, thermal validation, a whole rigmarole of things. Kenny has a whole working theory on how many miles are actually on this drivetrain, but we'll just never know. We'll just never know, no matter what.
Unless one of you knows.
But man, maybe one of you, and we do need some sleuthing help here because you have this amazing layout. And again, in the comments, you said, hey, give us some close-ups. So we're going to give you some close-ups. But you can see here, we obviously have the engine. We have the big giant turbos. Ironically, the engine and the turbos are remarkably similar to the MP4 12C. Basically is that with a few modifications. You got big giant liquid cooled electric motor. This was designed by McLaren specifically because they wanted the balance between combustion and electrons. We'll talk about that, but they wanted it to be perfect. This is not a fuel-saving electric motor hybrid setup. This is designed to deliver instant punch in that perfect balance that the P1 is known for. So you've got this big electric motor. So just a quick breakdown. Engine without the turbos, probably a 500 horsepower, thereabouts engine. Turbos add another 270-ish horsepower, somewhere in there. So you've got I think the number is like 727 total horsepower between engine and turbos. Plus the electric motor is around another 170. I think it's 177 with 192 foot-pounds of torque in the electric motor for a combined 903 horsepower worth of perfection in this drivetrain. Kenny, tell us about the transmission. Any difference between this one and the 12C, really?
Well, I'd say largely not a ton. You know what, we kind of will talk about how there's just a variety of P11 parts all over this thing. But interestingly,
P11 being
12C.
12C, P12 being P1.
Interestingly enough, though, this actually has a different serial number on it than the engine does.
This is super confusing because, so first of all, you would think that validation prototype number 4 would have an engine block that says validation prototype number 4, that they would match. None of these things match. On the front of the engine, we'll give you a close-up in a minute, it says XP4. So the XPs for McLaren, the experimental prototypes, are different than the validation prototypes. The VPs are right before production where you're ready to rock, but you're not quite running the 375 P1s that were produced all over the world. So you've got kind of like a dog's breakfast of this. Now, we'll provide a close-up of some of this, but literally some of the, not the serial numbers, but I believe the actual initials of the engineer were scratched in the front of this. Plus it says XP4 on the engine. And then what does it say on the transmission?
We've got VP9 hiding back here as well. So
VP9. So we've got VP9 transmission, an experimental prototype number 4 engine that all came out of validation prototype number 4. McLaren's known for mixing and matching things, and I would imagine if the engine block is working, like, you know, why reinvent the wheel? Just throw it on in there. So that is what is going on. But and as we go over with some of the close-ups of the engine, you'll see we've got P12 tags. That's Project 12, which is for the P1. We've got P11 part numbers, which is for the 12C. So Project 11 was the 12, and Project 12 is the 1. So who knows how any of that works, but there you go. And then you're also going to find some interesting things. So like the engine mounts, we got these from Absolute. So we needed to, it wasn't a perfect fit out of the box getting the Absolute, the new engine mounts that they make specifically for the P1 onto this. Part of the theory is that the mounts might be slightly different in this XP engine configuration than the production one. Don't really know. But the engine mounts are on mostly because the bushings were trashed and gross, and we got new ones on there. We also have some really super cool parts from FabSpeed, the downpipes. We got all the radiators from FabSpeed custom made. So those will probably give us a little bit more flow through and effective cooling. And then what did Cannonball, what was the main thing that we had Cannonball do for us?
Connecting rods as well. So.
Connecting rods.
Yeah.
So, and why did we get the connecting rods upgraded?
Well, partially because they told us, you know,
told us
but
to.
on top of that as well, it has been told that that is a common thread of a weak point from the P1's engine. So
I always thought though that was like if you were going to like goose the engine up to 4 liters from 3.8, might have a problem. But in general, rumor has it that there are problems with the connecting rods.
yeah, it's speculation. We just decided to future-proof this thing when we were going through it. I mean, how often do you have it like this?
That's right.
So
And Cannonball, they were amazing. They came out, picked it up in a van, drove it away. We kind of shed a tear as it went away. And they went literally from the front of this all the way to the back, tore it apart. So we're talking valves, gaskets, seals, just literally hundreds of parts replaced, repaired, upgraded for this particular power plant. Part of that is, again, we really don't know how many miles are on this power plant. What do you think's on this thing?
well, I've tried to do some research to see exactly how many miles are on this thing. And a lot of my speculation from watching videos and commentary on VP4 circa leads it to me to believe that it was somewhere around 40,000 miles on this engine. That is track miles.
Yeah,
So that's a lot.
that's hard living.
Yeah, that's a lot of hard living.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, for us, just kind of peace of mind was just kind of go through it, get it done right, get it done just so we can just
Yeah.
turnkey.
Yeah, if it's 40,000 track miles on this engine, that's a lot of cigarettes and whiskey for an engine. So a couple other things you'll find. So first of all, these massive cables here, these are obviously the 3 cables that lead from the battery, which I believe is a almost 400 volt, not quite, battery that feeds, in this case, the electric motor. And remember, this is 2-way flow, so you get juice from the battery, and then obviously you get regenerative back to the battery. We did acquire a Gen 3 battery. The battery itself, I'm not joking, costs basically what a really nice used Artura costs right now. But it was like our conversation was, if we're going to build this thing and we're going to love it and name it and keep it, then it really should have the best of the best. And this is a passion project for us. I realize, as many of you have pointed out in the comments, we could have just bought a second P1, but it's not about doing that. It's about taking literal automotive history. Jeremy Clarkson drove the P1 with this engine right here, this one. So that's why this is cool, is it's got real automotive history. And a lot of this stuff was probably, like the engine block, probably cast in 2012, so super early before the production run, way before the 2013 production run of the P1. So really, we just wanted this thing to live again. She needs to breathe.
Well, now that we've talked about the engine a bit, we'll cut quickly for you guys to see VP4 in work at the time when it was running around on a couple different tests. So let's cut to that real quick, and we'll be back.
Yeah, let's take a look at that Top Gear episode and this engine working hard.
And fast. Really fast. Mind-blowingly fast.
Okay, so here, as you can see, we've got some lovely cables. So these are interfaces for the engine to go to the wiring harness, which we're gonna go over there and take a look at it. And then this is obviously the interface for the transmission portion of the wiring harness. So we'll put those down, lots of zip ties on that. We're gonna go over and take a look. We actually spent a few hours taking the entire P1 wiring harness, which we bought a brand new one, and feeding it, in this case, through the monocage and the rear subframe. So we'll go take a look. This is obviously the tub. You guys saw this. If you haven't seen the other video, please go take a look. Obviously, there's not a lot of tech specs in that video, but we were just excited. It's been a long time. So Kenny, what did we do here? How do we spend our Saturday night?
Well, this was a bit of a process, obviously, but we kind of spent the time going through the McLaren docs and figuring out, how to move this giant beast of wiring through this entire chassis.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
that
the
was
wiring
first thing.
harness is just one big giant thing.
It is. It's essentially the nervous system of the car. Actually, one of the videos we referenced heavily is there's a documentary of McLaren in 2012 putting a wiring harness in a 12C, so I probably watched that 30 times. Super helpful, surprisingly, so thanks guys from the past, appreciate that. But we were able to thankfully confirm that this is a P1 wiring harness based on its characteristics, which was really important to us.
We did pay for a P1 wiring.
We paid for one, but we wanted to make sure that it was a P1 wiring harness.
Right. It's ironically probably the same as an MP4 wiring harness.
It may be.
Yeah.
But yes, we ended up routing all of that through, putting the fuse box in, and just kind of getting a general feel. So none of it's bolted down yet. We still have a lot more work to do before we kind of set anything in stone. So we're going to be doing a lot of dry fits before anything is truly done.
Right.
Here.
Well, the one big difference between this wiring harness and an MP4, obviously the biggest difference will be the hybrid drivetrain. Obviously, electric motor, a battery, blah blah blah. So to be fair to the 12C gods and the P1 gods, there are differences. We've confirmed where all of the interfaces are on the wiring harness for the battery control system, the motor itself. So it most definitely is a P1 wiring harness. The thing that we're debating right now is it's less electrical and it's more the finish of the tub itself. I think that rather, like my vote is like no carpet. My vote is no insulation. I think we go and just do glossy finish on as much of the carbon, expose as much as we can, and just let it rip, let it be loud.
I think we're gonna go for like a 620R Senna vibe and just kind of go loud from there. Obviously, we need to, coat it and make sure that it's.
We'll make it glossy. We'll PPF absolutely everything, and fine. I'll have a carpet, like I'll have a floor mat. I will do a floor mat. But outside of that, we're just gonna absolutely let this thing rip. So the fit and finish of it. So we're kind of paused right now. Obviously, we got the wiring harness in. But anywhere where there's visible carbon here, I think, we ought to just let it be. I mean, the 765, the LT's got, that doesn't have carpeting on the floor, why would you cover up this beautiful carbon?
That's a good point. Good question. I'm not McLaren. All right, well, that's going to do it for today, you guys. We hope you enjoyed us going on a little bit more in-depth detail guide about our powertrain and how everything's going to kind of play out. But yeah, we appreciate you guys watching. And you know what? we're excited to share this journey with you guys. This is going to be a lot of fun.
And please comment. Can't wait to see what you find out about the engine. Obviously, if you need close-up shots, we'll post more, but super excited to do more of these, and some will be a little bit more technical, some will be less, and then we'll get into some of the specs on the tub coming up, but see you soon.
See you guys.